All right. Hey, Ron, how are you?
Hey, good afternoon. I'm good.
Nice to have you here. Thank you for coming on the show.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
So, we're going to be talking about some books that you've written. Looks like these are children's books. Before we get to your books, though, I'm curious about what you were doing prior to when you started writing. It says on your bio that you quit a 30-year career as an IT tech or IT
Uh,
consultant.
yes, sir. Well, my degree's in radio and TV, so I spent some time on the radio, and I did play-by-play locally here for 25 years. But you really can't make much of a living and buy a house doing that in a small town. And my wife and I wanted to raise our kids around their grandparents, so I got asked to take a consulting job with a local IT firm, and I did well at that. I did that for close to 30 years, and I just got tired of the rat race basically and working for the corporate America world. I wasn't sleeping and just stressed out. And one night at dinner, just talking to my wife, she says, "Just quit. It's not worth it anymore." So I quit, and with no real idea of what I was going to do from an employment standpoint, just hoping somebody would find me. And then how this all came about is one night at Sunday dinner, we have family dinner on Sunday. My daughter-in-law suggested I write children's books because the way I play with my grandkids. I have three grandkids here in town, and I would make up bedtime stories and things along play very creative with me. And I just kind of went, no, I'm not going to do that. That's kind of silly. So then I got an idea one evening, and I wrote a story and wrote another and wrote another, and so on and so forth. And I have a few friends that have dabbled in writing stories and books, and I showed them to them. They really liked them, and one thing led to the other, and I started a company, and I've published 8 books now.
Did you have any idea what you were getting into?
No, I honestly did not. And I this was, and people always, oh, you've always wanted to write. This is. I go, no, I had no inclination of doing anything like this ever. So I went in it basically naked and hired an illustrator. And that first book, I actually have a presentation on creating that first book and all the, I don't want to say hurdles necessarily, but um, almost slaps in the face that you come across. Like when she, it's just random calls like, Ron, what color do you want the bricks in your book? I'm like, they're bricks. What color are bricks? She goes, oh no, we got to make sure they don't mix with other colors you've picked. And the real big slap in the face was when she goes, what do you want on the back cover? And I had, I mean, I literally had no idea. I kind of had the cover figured out and what the characters look like, but the back cover is like, was one of those wake up moments like, oh, I'm really doing this. So we ended up coming up with the back cover, but there's just so many things that popped up that, and it's been a blast. The journey's been a blast, but I've learned so much in the 2 years I've done this. And yeah, as that's a long answer to your question, but I did not have a clue. Did not have a clue what I was getting into.
Doesn't the back cover usually have the about the author?
Well, that's there, but she also said we usually put pictures on the back cover, and I was like, no, 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 we're not doing that. So what I ended up doing is that night I was reading a David Baldacci book or some other book, and you know how you always on the back of the book it has all the reviews like this is the greatest book ever, and he has really exceeded himself. The Publishers Weekly or all that. So I made up mock reviews for my book, and the series about an ant colony. So I would have Better Hills and Gardens or magazine Ants Illustrated, and they would have reviews of my book. And I have 3 reviews, fake reviews of my book, kind of mocking or satirically mocking those type of reviews that you'll find on the bestsellers. So that's what I ended up putting on the back of the book and some social media stuff and a bit of a bio. But now people look forward to those mock reviews on the back of my books.
Do people know
So
their mock reviews?
I hope so because their magazine's named like Better Hills and Gardens or Ants Illustrated,
Oh,
and
okay, okay.
uh, trying to come up with some. I can't think of the other one. Was a better shoot. Was another one. Oh, insects are us. Stuff like that. They may not, but that's part of the fun.
Playbug.
I haven't done Playbug, but I will. That's good.
The two book series that I have on here, the Bakers Patio series and Papa Tell Me a Book series.
Yes,
Okay. These were inspired by your grandson, is that correct?
yes. So the Bakers Patio series, I have 6 books in that series, and it's all about an ant colony that lives under the brick patio of an older couple whose kids have moved out. So how I got this idea was I was barbecuing, and my grandson was out in the backyard messing around with me. He was 3 at the time. He just started stomping on all the anthills. So I'm just sitting there watching him going, I bet the ants are not real happy about this situation. And so I just wrote a book about that from the ants' perspective. So I've got multiple stories about this ant colony. It's led by a queen, and all the ants have their jobs, and they face a lot of the problems we face. But it's just done in a different type of community. And the messages I try to point out are just real subtle. I don't want to slap the messages, and be very forceful about them. But that's what the first series is about. It's just the challenges this ant colony would face, and kind of from the viewpoint of an ant. Now, the other one is kind of how this all got started. And I mentioned earlier that when I put down my grandson for a nap, one day I said, pick your 2 stories. He said, no, Papa, I want you to tell me a story. And I was just taken aback. And I was like, about what? And he looked around the room and he goes, medicine, because he saw a medicine bottle. So you're on the spot. You can't disappoint your grandchild. So I had to make up a story about medicine. So the Papa Tell Me a Book series is exactly that. It's a grandson picking a topic for the grandpa, and the mind of a 3-year-old, he'll pick anything. So one of the stories, he picks a ceiling fan, and the other one, he picks the blanket that he's using. So what's kind of unique about the illustrations is the first half of the book, when the grandpa's telling the story, is very like Winnie the Pooh, watercolory type. And then when the boy falls asleep, he dreams the rest of the story, and it's very childlike, almost South Parkish type of illustration. And then at the end, they kind of mix together for the last page. So those are the 2 series. Surprisingly, they're getting very good. I shouldn't say surprisingly, but apparently I'm good at this, and I'm getting really good reviews on them. And again, it's been a lot of fun and been very receptive. But they're unique. One of the things I really wanted to do, like the Papa Tell Me a Book series, I had illustrators tell me that wasn't a good idea to mix different illustration types within one book. But that's the way I wanted to do it, and it's different than anything I've ever read. And the same with the Bakers Patio series. I wanted it to be different. I wanted to stand out, different from anybody else's books, because there's millions of people trying to do what I'm trying to do, but in some fashion, I have to be unique. I have to be different, and that's what I'm trying to accomplish.
Well, I can give you a statistic on that. 2.2 million books have been self-published on Amazon in 2021. So,
well, I wish you wouldn't have said that, because that makes me feel even smaller. But I knew it was a lot. And apparently, and talking to people, apparently the amount of books I've already sold is very good for somebody just getting underway. So that's cool. That's pretty cool.
Well, I see on here 3,000 books you've sold.
Yeah, it's roughly 3,000. It's really hard to tell because when you're with Ingram Spark and some of the other places, it's really hard to get data. So that's kind of a guesstimation on my part. But yeah, I was pretty astonished when I did some totaling, a few months ago, right around the holidays, and that's where I was at.
And that's for 1 year?
2.
2 years. Okay, well, that's still good. That's still very good.
It's not good enough, though.
Well, I can give you another statistic. If you can sell 25,000 books in 1 year, you will get calls from the big 5 publishing houses in New York.
Yeah. So
that's sort of their break point. Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
We'll see.
What age group are these for?
I would say 7 and below. I mean, the lower range, I always think you can read to a kid whenever. I mean, we started reading to our kids right away. But when I go to classrooms, it's usually kindergarten, first grade, and maybe second, and maybe some preschool. So it would be roughly, that age group right there. I've also had older kids do book reports on, so like maybe 3rd or 4th graders have used my books for book reports. So right around there.
Is there any kind of a moral message with these, or is it just fun and playtime? And
it's a little bit of both. The first book, The Bakers Patio, It's about a little boy coming up and stomping on their anthills, and the queen saves the day. The second book is about coaching and the wrong way to coach. The third book's called The Sultan, and it's a slug who enters the patio. And slugs are real slow and methodical. And he is met by the prince of the colony, Prince Andrew. And the prince says, go, 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 go. We got to hurry. We got to hurry. And then as they walk across the patio, the Sultan has his slogan. It's go with the flow, slow, and something along those lines. So he wants to go slow so he can basically stop and smell the roses. He enjoys all the beauty around him as he walks across the patio. And the prince doesn't see all that until the end of the story. The fourth book is just about what happens to a bug when he gets in your car. I've always wondered about that. And then the car takes off. So one of the ants flies into the car and the car takes off. The fifth book, everybody said I had to do a Christmas book, but ants in my world don't celebrate Christmas, but they do have a festival. So to celebrate the good in their lives and how things are going well. And they have the festival on the longest day of the year when the sun shines the longest and the moon is out the shortest, something along those lines. And so that's what the fifth book is about. And the book I just came out with, I really like. It's real simple, and it's called I'm With Me. I released it a month or so ago. And the simple story is about an ant, a young ant that wanders away from the colony and just sits down and waits for a friend. And everybody's freaking out because this little ant is all by itself. But she's comfortable being by herself. And when I was growing up, my father passed away early, and I was home alone a lot, and I played by myself all the time and had to use my imagination. And there's really nothing wrong with that. So that was kind of a subtle message I was trying to get across, that it's okay if you want to be by yourself and enjoy the outdoors or read a book or something along those lines. You don't always have to have somebody with you to have a good time. So those are somewhat of the messages I try to get across. And again, I don't want to beat anybody over with a hammer about it, but it's just stuff that, as I write, it's kind of funny how the messages come out as you write. You may not go into the story with a message in mind, like the Sultan with a slug. I just thought it'd be cool if a slug, an ugly old slug came onto the patio, and Prince Andy was annoyed by how slow he was. But then the way we worked the color into the story, it started out very gray, and the further along the walk they go, more color is added because Andrew starts recognizing some of the beauty. And then the final page is Andrew flying and seeing everything full in color, including the clouds and the dew and the flowers and things along those lines. So,
well, Ron, we got to wind this down. We are out of time. Thank you so much for coming on. How many books are you doing in a year?
Well, I overdid it last year. I did about 5 last year. So far this year, I have 1 out, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I've got many, many written, but I know I'm going to have 1 out in the fall for sure.
Okay. Last question. Do you have a website you want to give out?
Yeah, it's papatellmeabook.com. Just that simple. Papa Tell Me a Book, which is my company. Books are available there. My bio's out there. Reviews of my books are out there. Information about my illustrator out there. And then you can get them off Amazon too.
The real reviews or your comic?
Yeah. No, the real reviews from regular normal people, including some authors. Yep.
Okay. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. It's nice meeting you. Best of luck.
Yeah, thanks, Douglas. Appreciate you having me.